think when my sister and I get an apartment together, which is going to happen either later this year or very early next year, I'm going to start like measuring out my rebellion. As in, like, I'm like literally gonna make a list of like all the things that I've been acculturated to do that I don't actually like. Yeah, but it means like getting in a very comfortable spot where it's not a crazy party and like trying psychedelics for the first time. Yeah. Just to see what mine is like. I want to buy enough weed to figure out what exactly it takes to get me high. Because everything that everybody's been giving me has been for people that are like Santiago size. And it just has never, ever actually...
So something you can do that will guarantee that you're going to get high without having to buy like a brick, right?
We talking space cakes?
Yeah,
edibles.
Right.
Edibles like...
And that's
whenever I was in between like shelter between foster homes, because I've told both of you that was in foster home. There was this kid who was going to school in Del City, and he I guess he was selling. Like I don't know how he was selling from inside of a shelter.
You said Del City, bro.
I know, but he wasn't living in Del City.
Oh, okay.
Like he was living in a shelter down around Douglas, right?
Okay.
Which, granted, is not a great place as far as like.
I'm surprised you didn't like show up with meth.
Anyway, someone rats him out. One of the girls like rats him out, right? And he's got a thing of pot on him that's like without being shredded, it's about like that big around. So it's a pretty sizable
amount of marijuana.
Yeah, and he runs in there. My roommate, because 2 people per room, like really tall Jamaican guy, like has the accent, has dreads.
Was he like running here like if all the people, Jamaican bro is going to know what to do with this weed?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. He comes in there. I think his name was Joaquin. He's like, Joaquin, someone ratted me. I got to get rid of this stuff. And then he's like, just eat it. and I'm Joaquin's roommate. And they're like,
what do you think we used to snack on our way to school in Jamaica?
Right. So he's like, just eat it. What are they going to do? Make you like vomit and get rid of it? It's like, and he's like, okay, we'll eat it. And then I just happen to be in there when he runs in, so he's like, Terry, you have to eat some of this. And I was like,
won't that taste bad? Well, yes, but you'll be so hungry afterwards that you'll immediately cover up the taste.
Here's what happens, right? Guy who's selling it, obviously very, very acquainted with pot. Jamaican guy who admitted that he was all about the pot, right?
All about that.
and me, and I'm sitting there like I've never done any sort of drug before. Like the most I did is like I tried smoking a cigar because I thought it would be cool, and I hated it. Right, like up to then, that's the closest thing to drugs for me. And he's like, all right, breaks the thing in half, right? Gives me half, then keeps his half, and breaks it into the quarters
for the 21st century. Right? Yeah, this is amazing.
They give me like a solid half of it, and then they take their half and break it into quarters, and then they eat a quarter apiece, and then I'm sitting there with this half, and I'm like, you want me to do what with this?
This is my bud that was broken for you.
Yeah, I know, right? So,
inconceivable.
So I put it in my mouth and I'm trying to get it down.
Convenient.
Yes.
Yes. That's exactly what it was. So I put it in my mouth and I'm like, oh, this is so dry, right? So and the flavor was just like ridiculous strong. So I'm chewing on it and I'm like, it's not going down, not going down, not going down. So, and then they're already done and they're just looking at me and Joaquin just kind of grinning and he's like, get it down.
We done fucked up the nuclear. But yeah.
So then I run into the bathroom and I'm like putting water in my mouth from the faucet. And I finally get it down and I get back in there. And first, I have no idea how long it took for it to kick in, but when it kicked in, oh man. Like I could like feel the sound, right?
I like literally just once. I want that to happen just so I know what that's like because I don't have a reference right now.
I felt like I was melting, and I wrapped myself up like a mummy in the blanket on my bed, and I had headphones in, and like I could feel the vibrations to let's see, I think it was 3 Days Grace. That's what I was listening to. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm gonna melt out of my bed.
See, because I have that curiosity with you too. Mine's more, I guess, scientific. I want to just do them once and just get like.
Well, there are a lot of them that you shouldn't do if that's all you're planning.
I know.
But Nietzsche thought the same. English, how does it work? Nietzsche thought the same thing, and then he realized that cocaine is a hell of a drug, and so. Yeah.
Well,
So things not to do,
wouldn't
heroin,
do, yeah,
meth,
no, I wouldn't do any of
cocaine.
those because, like, it's not an experience I need to have. None of these are experiences I have to have, but, like,
I don't know.
would
I want to. I like just philosophically. I want to have a Coke
No.
party once.
Yes. Well, no.
No.
But not Coke, because that's too much. But,
Expensive as
That's
all
why I
hell.
was in foster care.
yeah. Well, there you go. So,
That's all I need.
yeah. So weed is one. I'd probably, and I think I would do the same thing with all of them. Like, sit down on a couch like this,
Yeah.
just in my house or someone's house, like,
Right.
and just a comfortable environment.
Random
and go,
person's house.
Here's a brownie, and just let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. That's what
And
I
then
want.
just
That literally
have,
what I want to
have
do.
like a spotter, basically, someone who's sober in the room. That's just like,
Yes.
all right, hey, what's going on? Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm good, you know.
Yeah.
And then just see what happens there.
No.
And then so do that with weed.
Yeah.
Do that with LSD.
Yes.
Do that with shrooms,
Molly.
and then DMT, ecstasy, and then DMT.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with DMT.
DMT is so here's a fun thing. So there's a gland in your brain called the pineal gland,
Yeah.
and that releases DMT whenever you are having a near-death experience.
Yeah.
And so the like whole life flashing before your eyes,
It's
having
just
like
you
a giant
tripping
that's
balls.
you tripping balls right
Yeah,
for you.
okay.
As opposed to the hippocampus, which when it like reacts wrongly and just releases hyper levels of aggression, that's actually you releasing DMX in the brain. So,
Because X gonna give it to you.
because X gonna give it to you.
But so DMT is, I mean, a lot of people. So it's basically like LSD, but just a higher level. Like it is.
Like
the
just a step,
hallucinogen
or is it
of,
like
It's
level
the,
of magnitude?
It's the stairway to heaven.
Okay.
No, there's a documentary about it. It's called DMT, the spirit molecule.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and I think we talked about it on the one that didn't get recorded, but
Yeah, actually, I
most
think we
people,
did.
most people say that they see fractals.
Yeah, that you're like seeing the fabric of the universe, kind of.
One of my brothers, I will not name whom, because both of them will be on this podcast or have been. But he said that he he experienced. He saw something like the Vitruvian Man, and then spinning, and then he felt the unity and being one with the universe, and so that is the experience that you have ahead of you whenever you take DMT, and while I don't feel like I need to have that experience, I think both of you know me well enough to know that I have some pretty universal love for the world, regardless of how much DMT I've smoked, which is zero. And so
this is something that you have to inhale?
Yeah, you can
do it
consume
differently,
it.
yeah.
Like the Amazonian Indians.
ayahuasca.
Yeah, exactly. And
These
that's
guys.
a plant that they boil, and then they basically strain that into a drink. You spice it with some herbs
So
or
this
whatever, and then you
This is
commune with
a
your ancestors.
neurotransmitter that naturally occurs in the brain.
Yeah, but it's not.
also found in a plant?
Well, what it is it's basically like, so far as I understand it, it's something that the brain can release at any time.
Yes.
It chooses not to because it's some powerful shit.
Yes. Well, with any drug, you actually already have those chemicals in your brain.
Correct.
And whenever you take a thing, it
Activates.
it activates.
And
it.
so
some of them have the drug, and some of them activate the drug, and some of them is kind of both.
And so there's actually a movement like on the far end of the drug scene to take both an active drug and then something that actually reacts to what's already in your brain chemistry at the same time to reach warp speed or something. I don't know, but it was.
Well, I'm familiar with how most drugs are either something that is a neurotransmitter or is something that mimics them or something that triggers the release of them. I knew all that, but I was it's something that strong that's just like, yeah, boil this plant, you got it.
Well, basically, if you ingest the plant on its own, there's an enzyme in your stomach that just breaks it down before it gets in the brain. So like so you can't actually. But there's like a combination of things that you can do, and that is what allows them. And like, there's some theories about like, there's no like natural way that they could have reached like that conclusion on their own. So it must have been revealed by the gods or something. Yeah. But like, either way, like DMT itself, you could either like smoke it or whatever, or you could do ayahuasca. But that's also like it's a hell of an experience because you also vomit and crap profusely.
Yeah,
no.
Ayahuasca is not a recreational.
Yeah, no, you don't just go, hey guys, I'm having a party.
Like I brought a bottle of ayahuasca. You know, we're getting fucked up tonight. Like it's
no, like you have a shaman present, and like you have your waste bucket, and you have a bedroll,
just a tub,
and
time to meet your ancestors.
Experience God. So
honestly, if I actually did experience God, I would feel cheated if it wasn't a pants shitting experience. Like really, like if I had my like road to Damascus moment and I was just like, okay, I'm cool, here's God, I would feel cheated.
Okay, I mean, do you think like Paul crapped his pants whenever he had?
No, I think he did. I mean, like I think like if we really were gonna like make an HBO special about Paul, there would be a parent shooting road to Damascus moment because it's like
that would be terrifying.
Every time you see an angel, like their first thing is like, "Don't be afraid, you're not going to die." Like this is, you know what I mean? Like angels, just by their existence, are terrifying because it's so much more everything than Which is I was going to tell you actually in the last time we did this, if I was ever going to become religious again, because I am surely not in any way practicing religious. But if I was going to be religious again, I think I would be a fundamentalist. Because I think the only thing that would trip me back into being like practicing religious is something that would make me go so far in the other direction that I would be one of those people that I just can't stand right now. And I think I do, and I think that's actually where fundamentalism comes from. For like when a religion starts getting threatened, like Christianity here, where we're mostly just culturally Christian at this point, the people who are Christian dive so much deeper that, you know what I mean? Like being...
In part as a method of differentiating themselves.
Well, partially, and also just because when you get that ego invested, when you start getting threatened, you want to protect that ego investment. And that's the same for anything. Like, if you can see the same type of, like trip defense mechanism for, anything. Politics, atheists, sports fans,
Yeah.
But... you start seeing a marked increase in like fundies happening when it starts getting regularly challenged, and so I think that if I was ever going to be religious again, it would be something that would so radically alter me that I really wouldn't feel like I have any other alternative but to just dive as deep as possible, and that's the whole no faith like a convert comes from. Which I don't think it's ever going to happen, but I mean, like, I don't think at this point I'm ever going to be like just culturally Christian again. Like that's not an area I can go back to because it's just so foreign to what I believe now. I'm either going to have to completely commit to it, or I'm just going to continue on like I'm doing. But I can't really pick them up around.
I mean, if anything, I could probably, like, if I were to jump in just like wholeheartedly into religion, I would just become like full on Buddhist monk.
Really?
Like that's probably
you wouldn't go like full on like Crusader
no, I have
Knights Templar.
I still have too much love for that. But what I would do,
that's where it's at.
Yeah.
what I would do is probably just like, all right, guys, I'm gonna go live in a cave and meditate for a few weeks.
Okay.
Shave my head and not move from this spot until I reach enlightenment.
I packed my DMT.
So you're going to self-mummify yourself is what I'm hearing, because I understand that that's basically usually what happens.
He packed his DMT. He'll be out when he runs out. He'll become enlightened. I actually think that enlightenment is kind of an idea that is kind of transcendental to just Buddhism.
Well,
you know?
yeah.
I think would Saint if Saint Augustine had met a Buddhist, I think they would have gotten along fabulously. Because like there's that famous story of the man who has reached enlightenment and the traveler that comes up to him and he says, "Oh, wise master, what did you do before you found enlightenment? Like how base was your life before you found?" And the man said, "Well, mostly I just chopped wood and carried water. Like I just did what I just went about my day." And he says, "Okay, so you just lived a normal life. So what did you do after enlightenment?" And he says, "Well, mostly I just chopped wood and carried water. I just lived my life." And it's like you're supposed to be taken aback. Like that's it. Like the fuck am I? But it's enlightenment is supposed to be something that you pursue for its own end, because enlightenment is such a glorious thing just to inhabit the space that you have attained enlightenment. And I think that Saint Augustine would have been like, I get it. Like I understand you. That walking in the glory of God does not mean that you're like constantly spouting off like Bible verses, and you're not like, well, where's Jesus here? Like you are you, but you're just constantly living in the glory of God. But
St. Augustine was also extremely like, forgive me if I'm mistaken, but wasn't he also like, if you masturbate, you're going to hell immediately? Like,
no. I mean, like.
I'm not familiar with this figure at all.
St. Augustine lived in like the late 300s, early 400s in Alexandria, Egypt, which at that time was an entirely Christian city. This is before Islam even existed. But he lived at the very tail end of the Roman Empire. So this empire that had spanned the globe, that brought spices from India and tin from Britain and elephants from Africa, who controlled the world, was fading and breaking apart. The world was ending. And here was this religion, Christianity, that at one point had been persecuted by the Romans and now had subsumed large parts of the Roman Empire. I mean, the Roman Empire became Christian, and here he is trying to make sense of it all from his spot in one of the richest towns bordering the Mediterranean. So he literally had the ability to just sip wine, just sit in his hammock by the pool, and just fuck bitches on the beach and not care about the world as it was falling apart. And that's what he did. Until he had his own, like, road to Damascus moment. And that's when he became St. Augustine. This was a guy who was training to become, like, a middle manager in the Roman Empire. This is a guy who had money. He had been to Rome. He had been educated. All of his friends had box seats at the Circus Maximus when the chariots went around. I mean, this is a very popular guy. And he just gave up on all of that. But he didn't give up on being a public person. Like, he didn't go monk, which is what you're supposed to do. So he became this very learned man that had a front row seat to all this. Right, and he just wrote all the time. He has books and books and books. In fact, some of the greatest Latin texts we have is just Augustine just going ham on what he thinks. But he wrote in Latin, and so once you get up into like the mid to high Latin studies, you're studying like Cicero and Augustine, and maybe the Aeneid. And that's some of the what you do, which that's what's kept him current. But to answer your question, Santiago, like yes, like he was,
like he pretty much was the foundation of like the very like oppressive sexual Christianity.
I don't know. I mean, like if you look at Roman sexuality, there's parts of it that are pretty fucking oppressive based on what we view as sexuality.
Well, yeah, but also there was a portion of their sexuality that was like, oh, we just conquered these people, let's rape and
let's fuck all of them.
Yeah,
all of them. Like all of you be naked right now. Like it's but yeah, you're right. To be general, I think sex for humans is such a powerful thing that we have to put some limits on it, and those limits change. But I mean, like it's such an all-encompassing thing that you have to like put hands on it and try and control it, or else. Like you don't get anything else done. Like you either have to deal with the issue of sex, and then like basically say, okay, here is the sexual world, and here is the rest of the world, or sex seeps into everything. And
that's something that's very very accurate in a lot of respects. You look at the media. What sells the most?
Well, yeah, like it's always going. It's always going to be sex. Even Oscar Wilde said that everything in the world is about sex, except for sex. Sex,
which is about your parents.
That's Freud. It's about power or your parents. That's 18th versus 19th century, or 19th versus 20th century, right there. Except for sex, which is about your parents. Thanks, Mom. But yeah, and so, yeah, I mean, you know, to a degree, yes. But I also, I mean, you know, we have the ability to be less restrictive on sexuality. And so we're not, you know, if you lived in Alexandria, then, you know, there were, I think, good reasons to be restricted with sexuality. And that didn't mean that people liked it. Like, at no point in history do I think that people made so many rules for sex and were like, this doesn't have any downsides at all. Like, you know,
well, I mean, have you heard of Lysistrata? I mean, that's a hilarious play, by the way. It's a Greek play,
yeah,
and like it's about like the wives of the men
as they're off at war,
and so they just decided not to have sex with their men, and like they stopped war with
immediately.
Yeah,
and they were like, we gotta go home and bone. So. We can't stab the enemy anymore because we have to stab our wives. I think it's actually a quote in the play, something about like the interplay between like hoplite spear warfare and stuff. And like people make that joke even now. I think it was Carlin that made the all weapons are phallic joke. Like we build our dick missiles bigger than the Soviets built their dick missiles.
I mean, it's also convenient because missiles are aerodynamic, so they look phallic anyways.
Yeah, that's true. You know,
so I mean,
most weapons, especially older ones that are melee based, are going to have that shape just because it's a convenient thing. You know, you want it to be long because you want to hit them before they hit you.
Right, but I mean, like,
you want it to be light, so it needs to be narrow.
Right. Well, but you know, the way you kill a man in melee combat is you stab them. Yeah. People are really resilient if you try and like cut them. The skin is great at that. If you want to kill someone, you have to actually get inside.
Yeah.
Well, right. You know.
Well, I mean, there are exceptions to that. Like the
entire
Indian
kendo is
right, but I mean, like
not entirely, but like most of kendo moves are slash rather than stab.
He's referencing that because that's actually the main thing that I actually have done training.
But like even in Japanese warfare, the main weapon was the spear and the bow.
Yes,
not the
he's
sword.
completely.
The sword is
the last line of
sword is a
defense.
dueling weapon.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, in actual combat, like if you had nothing else, then you pulled out.
You pulled out your katana.
Like,
but the samurai's greatest weapon was the bow.
Yeah,
because you can penetrate a man from 150 yards. You know, but yeah, it's
the funny thing is they dedicated like a pretty sizable portion of their quiver to arrows that had no combat purpose whatsoever. It was just a whistle on the end of the stick, and they'd shoot it, and they'd be like, "Guys, we're coming for you.
Sure,
we're going to kill you.
Yeah.
Get out."
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you're right. No, the whistling arrows. It's all about fucking with their head, and then you know. But there's been a parallel drawn throughout history that you know warfare and sex are both about getting close to what you want and putting something inside of them.
Well, there's this one study Chris Ryan quotes a lot that I think I might have said it to you or Caleb. I think that basically someone studied the relationship and contact with mothers that people have in their younger stages and the amount of sexual repression in the culture, and then that with correlation to the level of violence in the society, and it was a direct correlation. The more sexual frustration, the more violence. The more, less relationship that people had with their mothers, the more violence. So, I mean, to an extent, also, yes, sex is also about your parents.
Well, no, I think it is. The joke is because sex can't only be about you know what I mean. But it's such a powerful thing. Like your parents form you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm adopted, so like my adopted parents literally didn't form me, but I mean like for most people, their parents literally form them and then figuratively form what they become, which is part of the reason why I want to so selectively rebel is because you know when I want to experience all these things, it's like checking boxes so I can become you know this well-rounded person that I am in control of. These are the parts of me that I want to carry on. And it's very difficult to do that when you have when your parents still have any level of authority over you. Which sucks to be a millennial because like 55% of us are still living at home because, you know, jobs and houses and economy and adulting is hard and shit. But it's, you know...
Yay, Terry, you're winning out of...
Yeah. Hobo King over here with his own house.
I wouldn't say actual winning. I mean, I'm splitting the bills three ways.
Winning.
So
well, that's what I'm going to do. You know, we're already planning, but it's like it's going to
Amy
be.
and I are doing 1/3 of this.
Right.
Ethan is doing. Actually, we're doing a little more than a third. He's doing closer to an exact third, and then the rest of it's being picked up by Dixie and Randy.
Right.
Because they're using the shop and
Sure.
lots of electricity.
Sure.
Oh man.
But it's okay.
But I mean, as far as that regard goes, you're still much closer to being an actual adult than the two of us are.
Right.
I still.
Okay, I'm older than you. I don't know how old you are. So
23.
20. Oh yeah. I think we're like we're really close to exactly the same.
You're born in September, right?
No, December.
I'm born in October. December of what?
92.
God damn it!
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So,
I am
anyway.
the youngest one here, so you don't have to worry about that.
That's right. Well,
So-
like, I try not to measure myself against people because I
Whenever
did.
you get to our age, then we can see who's winning because we've got a head start on you.
Well, no, I don't think I have. I really think that I started behind a lot of other people. In that, like, the first time that I actually got to decide really anything for myself was roughly where I wanted to go to college, and then what I did while I was up there. And I started failing almost immediately. Like before all the shit that I was talking about,
That's
you went down.
basically the same as.
You know,
Yeah, I
well,
mean,
right. But-
Terry had
but
to like.
For you, it was. I think it is different. Not that I'm discounting. Like, not
No,
that I'm like,
yeah.
no, shut up. Mine was worse. But
Well, okay.
for
From
you-
what I've heard, yes, yours arguably is worse.
Yeah, I mean, for yours, it was a total lack of structure that you had to build. For me, it was too much structure, like too much control.
I was okay. So I think one of the fundamental differences between the two of us is while you're waiting, you've waited to do your rebellion thing.
Yeah,
Mine was immediate. I was in foster care.
Right.
Most of the homes I was in, even if they were good homes, I was like, screw these
Well,
people.
I
right?
yeah, I can
so
imagine
like
that. Yeah.
I started rebelling almost as soon.
Mm-hmm.
I was like really mousy before I was in foster care, and they started putting me into these homes, and I didn't like any of the situation. You name it, I had a problem with it probably.
Sure, yeah.
And so I was like, no, you don't want me to do this, I'm going to do that kind of thing, right? So I got my rebellion out of me sooner.
I kind of wish I'd done that.
I didn't cave and then fall into the structure that they were offering. And most of these homes were pretty. I mean, I don't know your parents, but I mean, from what I heard just from your first recording,
Sure.
like most of them were pretty comparable, just in basics to what you're going, with the obvious exception of none of them were missionaries. But
Right. Well, I mean, it was difficult for me to really understand how different I was, because when you're that cloistered, you don't know what you don't know. And so I knew I was different, and I knew I had rules that other people didn't, and I knew that I wasn't experiencing things that I wanted to experience, but it was always kind of like a I don't know what I'm missing type thing, which honestly made me miss it all the more, because like if I knew how awkward a house party could be, then I'd be more selective with the ones that I wanted to go to. And so like if I'd have had this in high school where I was like, well, this sucks. Like, I don't see what the point. And so then you start cultivating that, the selectivity. I didn't have any of that. So when I went to college, it was like everything now, and I just like didn't go to class at all, because I was just experimenting. It wasn't even rebellion at that point. It was just like, I can do this, and then did. And I ran into brick walls almost immediately, and that feeds into what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But when I say I want to selectively rebel, that's what I mean. Like I want a
Controlled
right. I want to controllably demolish. I want a controlled demolition of the things that are like still like almost subconsciously supplanted in my mind. And I was talking to you about like all of this. Like, even though I am not religious in at all, I still have like respect for religion, and I really do enjoy learning about it. And I think that there still is a lot of things that we can glean from it. But sometimes I wish that I wasn't. Sometimes I wish I could just be like, fuck religion, like fuck, and just like flip the table and like piss on the Bible and shit, and then just go full just rampage.
Hey, be careful, man. This microphone's sitting on a Bible.
Right?
Might burst into flames.
I mean, like sometimes I wish that I had done that just so I could like everything at once. But I feel like that's never actually been me. Like my sister, that she did that hardcore. I mean,
While you were still in high school?
well, a little bit, but they clamped down on her actually a little bit harder than they clamped down on me, because she was a teenage girl and
Coming home pregnant, yeah.
well, it was
Pregnant, but also just like you just have so many more reasons to worry as a female, and that's just like
yeah. Well, there's I don't don't think most 19-year-old girls realize the power that they actually have. Like I was watching Game of Thrones, like the second to last episode. I don't know if either of you guys watch it.
I don't.
But there's a scene where like the princess is watching her stepbrother, but it's actually her cousin. It's a very complex show. Have a battle and he's losing, and then a guy that wants to marry her rides over the hill with like his whole fucking army to come and save the day. And I turned to Christy and I was like, Do you see what Princess Pussy is worth? Do you see how many guys are dying?
I was like, Helen of Troy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's throughout history. I don't think most young women actually understand the limits of what they could get away with.
And I think that's probably a good thing.
No, I'm not saying it's. I'm not saying
from the perspective of a male.
From
it's probably a very good thing.
But is that not limiting sexuality, which he was talking about? This is what I mean by putting hands on and trying to at least box in sexuality a little bit. Right. I wasn't even thinking about that for sure. And Christy at 19 was when she still is, but she was gorgeous, and she still is, and so she's about to be engaged. I'm actually helping her soon-to-be fiance like plan that a little bit, just like the beginning stages, and they talked about it. But she went really hard when she suddenly realized that you mean I can just get stuff. You mean I can just and just realizing because she had never been allowed to be desired before, so she kind of got addicted to that, and it really got her in trouble. Like she really hurt herself because she burnt herself out almost immediately. But what are you going to do? Like we never been taught. And so I think the biggest thing that I regret about my childhood is that my parents raised me to be a really good kid, but they did not in any way raise me to be a functional adult. And that is that what I mean? Like when I have kids, I don't want like the specter of my father to be like what I, what I mean? Like I'm not going to base my decisions on like, well, my dad did this, so I have to do things differently. Because he was more than decent with money. He provided materially very well for us. It's not like I'm going to be the antithesis of my dad. That was part of the reason why I failed. Because I tried to be the antithesis so much.
For me, that's definitely a desirable thing. At least.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like
starting with no cocaine there,
right?
Yeah. That's a fantastic good first step,
right? And my dad did. Mine was a much more soft undermining of my individual, rather than just fuck you, I don't care about you. So I can understand.
See, that's another thing. My dad didn't. He wasn't like, hey, I don't give a crap about you guys. For him, it was a battle for him. He was like, I've got this addiction, and I've got a family that I want to care for. And there were times when like he was his addiction, and then there were other times where he was like fighting it pretty admirably. And so like I don't have any hate towards my dad for the things that happened. I'm probably very different for people who've gone through the things that I've gone through in terms of perspective on it.
Right.
A lot of people are either like, my parents did drugs, I'm going to do drugs, and then they become scumbags too. Yeah. Or they're like, my parents did drugs, and I hate them, I'm never going to talk to them again.
Right.
And I'm like, my parents did drugs, I was taken away from them, I'm far better off for having been taken away.
Yeah.
So, like, no harm, no foul, whatever,
But there's two ideas that come up here. One that you were mentioning, Cory, is that that you were raised to be a good kid, but I feel like one of the biggest problems about being raised in such like a fundamentalist, like, you be this way because I say so, is that you never know why that's
that's exactly it. They never explain why.
That's not necessarily the problem for everyone, though. There are a lot of people out there who just follow because someone else said so.
Well, yeah, but
just because
I'm not saying it's necessarily good.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I'm definitely not one of those.
But I think that since we're all talking about our childhoods,
that's something I've been curious about.
Pour your heart out to us.
No, it's not. I didn't even have a bad childhood. I think that
you come from a very interesting place.
Yeah,
Venezuela.
Well, okay, I didn't mean literal location. I meant perspectively.
It is fairly interesting right now.
It's that
yes,
I never was really told to do something and then not told why.
Yeah.
Because if it's like, I always use the example of like, there's a hot stove, don't touch it.
Sure.
And you can just do that and go, hot stove, don't touch. Then you can go, okay, fine, I won't touch because you say so. But then there's like there's a hot stove, don't touch, you'll burn your hand. Mm-hmm. And then that's the middle ground. And then the farthest is like, oh, you want to touch the hot stove?
I'll let you touch the hot stove. Touch it, motherfucker, touch it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, so like, I feel like I got the middle ground there. There was like, yeah, you can do that, but like, there's also all of this accompanied to it. And so I was given a level of freedom, but given enough structure to where I didn't just take advantage of it willy-nilly. So what ended up happening is that like I did go and do like, I didn't do bad stuff, but I like hung out with friends. I like walked around everywhere without telling my mom where I was, and that's like the extent of the rebellion that I did. Sure. Because I never really got past the point of like, because I knew that drugs were bad and why.
Okay.
Like, because that's the difference. Drugs are bad. All right, I won't do drugs. Wait, some people are doing drugs and they don't think they're bad? I'll do all the drugs.
Right.
No, it's drugs are bad because of this. Mm-hmm. So this is their purpose, and like
I think that puts each of us in like different categories here.
Yeah.
With my parents, with very few exceptions, it was do what you're going to do. You're going to learn the results of those actions. Mm-hmm. At least while I was living with them, like up until I was 12.
Yeah.
For you,
for me, it was some things literally carry with it like the threat of hellfire. If you do some things.
And then for you had the in between that. Like for very few exceptions, for me it was like don't do drugs because if you do them, they'll beat your ass. That's literally something my dad told me.
But yeah, that's so I never had like. I don't remember spankings. I was spanked, I think, when I was like a lot younger, but like I don't remember spankings. So I can remember as far as to where I was like 5 or 6. So from that point, I wasn't spanked. What did happen? The punishment was like a stern talking to from my parents, and I would be like, "Man, I feel bad about this."
See, that wouldn't have done anything to me.
And you know what? It worked.
See, it's funny. That level of like shaming what you did was like an implicit part of and to this day still is an implicit part of dealing with particularly my father. That implicit level of like shame and that level of just visceral discomfort is my relationship with my dad. That never went away.
But it's not about, because the difference is that you were told that it's bad,
right? And it's not like a one-time thing and then it dissipates. That's like that just is how it is. He would because I didn't get spanked after like 8 or 9. He would just destroy my things as punishment.
Yeah,
he'd like take my toys and smash them with a hammer and stuff. And even to this day, I don't I don't consider him abusive. He's really not. What he was and still is, but I'm 23 and I'm just bigger than him, so he can't. He was just extraordinarily controlling because he was repressed. Like his mother, my grandmother, and she's old enough now that she's kind of mellowed out because she knows she's going to die soon. Was enormously, like pathologically, controlling, and he never rebelled. He never ever did. He was always the dutiful son. His twin brother. Moved out, switched states, did his own thing, and he is the much more just sociable, just grounded person. His kids, by the way, have a great relationship with him and didn't go out of college, both of them. So it's a really interesting parallel. But my dad never did, and so I think that there is a healthy amount of rebellion that all kids must do because it's a part of becoming your own individual person. And I think that when I say that I want to raise decent kids, I mean exactly that. I don't expect world-changing kids. I want them to be decent young adults when I let them go.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
The other idea that came up was that I thought of this before, and the levels of conservative, like, extreme repression and structure
Right.
is like, let's say, is way up here.
I don't think the
and
repression
then,
has to be just a conservative thing.
And so,
I
I
think
mean
it has to be at all.
conservative as in conserve. Not
okay.
conservative
All
as
right.
in it is
All right.
Yeah, okay.
understood politically. But,
Okay.
so
As in,
like,
okay,
yes.
you're gonna make a joke, but
But there's that level of like structure and rigor, and then all the way at the bottom of that wave is like extreme rebellion, nothing matters, extreme
everything
chaos.
is possible. There are no rules.
And so there's a balance of that, and I'm sure you would understand that like there's waves of that in societies
That's a good way,
that goes. Whenever it becomes like extremely structured and
There's
just
gonna
like,
be a reaction.
here's Christianity and like here's all the things that you can't do, and then
That's actually
and then
something that was addressed on a recent podcast by Milo Yiannopoulos. He was talking to some lady who, in alt-right, sounded like she was absolutely crazy. But, it's the alt-right for you. But they were talking about this generation's thing, instead of being, about Marilyn Manson and stuff like the album Antichrist Superstar and whatever. The thing that is looked at as more of a that's not normal kind of thing is being almost kind of a conservative kind of person. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the roles are swapping.
And so what it is that whenever a society is like very structured and like repressed, then the generation afterwards goes way down in the wave and goes like, screw all your rules, I'm gonna do whatever I want.
But then their kids are
they
like,
realize,
you didn't you didn't do anything for us. We got to create some rules here.
and so they go
slowly,
back up, and so over time the wave starts shrinking down and finds this happy medium. But like every once in a while, there's like the people who like bump it back up again.
So you've got like the '60s, then you've got the Reagan era, and then
exactly.
But I also think that like the number of hippies in this country at any one time was hella small.
Yes,
and they defined a decade.
They were extremely overrepresented.
The number of like hardcore Reagan Republicans was extremely small, but they defined an entire political era. And so I think that part of that is that the radicals defined the movement. We were talking about this.
That's something that we
is that the people who were like most for an idea are completely overly represented in just about anything you do, and most of everyone else just kind of like falls along with it. So I think most people, even in that wave, are basically just moving a little bit beyond baseline or below baseline or above. And so part of what I want to do when I say I want to selectively self-destruct is to knowingly and kind of like safely take myself way beyond that just little baseline, which is what I'm comfortable with. Like I'm used to like a moderate amount of rebellion, and I want to like really like just demolish everything. So then when I come back to baseline, I'm not being subconsciously pulled back to how I was raised. Because there are a lot of things that just like how I'm habituated to react to, like just habitual things that I do are things that like logically I don't agree with, but it's like it's not a logical thing. That's always how I've been, and you're right. That's part of what I want to do is like get to the bottom of that wave and then be able to come back because I didn't just like crazify myself.
But I mean, even in that same regard, like I didn't grow up with a dad, so like my mom pretty much raised us. Not that I didn't have a father.
He was just always very far away.
Very far away. And
was it like New Zealand?
Well, he lives in New Caledonia now, but it was normally like Venezuela and then back for a few months, Venezuela, back for a few months, and now in New Caledonia. So like, not that I don't appreciate and respect my father because he did provide for us, but what he didn't provide for us was really raising us in ideals other than just being there. And so I feel like that's kind of what allowed me to do a level of slight rebellion, slight structure, because my mom was able to take care of us and be some structure for us, but she wasn't able to just like completely control our lives. That's just not within her means. And so I think what happened is just that like we were able to do what we wanted, but we also understood that the bad things were bad things. And also, I think for me, being the youngest, is that I got the best part of that.
Okay.
Because my oldest brother is 26 right now. And he probably rebelled the most out of the three of us. But not in the sense of... It depends, but in, like, school, he just got bad grades and stuff, and just, like, didn't really decide on what he wanted to do very soon, and was just kind of, like, flaky about everything.
Sure.
And so, like, then...
This guy.
And then, middle brother was, like, kind of ignored out of the three of us because...
That's cliche.
It is extremely cliche. But, like... And so, he just kind of wanted to get stuff together in a way that wasn't the way that my dad wanted him to, because he, like, loved my dad and then hated my dad. And then, so, like, my dad's an engineer, and then he, like, wanted to be an engineer too, and then it was like, no, I'm going to do the opposite. So he would be a music
Social
teacher.
worker?
Music teacher. And so, like, there's that level, but he still, like, tried really hard, but because, like, he wanted to.
Right.
And so, he's kind of more of, like, the like, myself thing, because he never really got treated as part of our community, I guess, as siblings. And then I was there to just kind of catch, like, the third wave of parenting once they figured it out. It was like, oh, hey, if we do this much but not that much, then we can do this. And so I got to learn from my brother's mistakes. And
Sure.
But I also, since I, like, respect and love them so much, I also, like, I feel like what happens with people who have older siblings is either they try really hard to be not like them because they hate them, or they try and keep up with them because they think they're the coolest people in the world. And so for me, I thought they were the coolest people in the world, and so that's why I am more mature for my age. That's why I'm more, like, intellectual for my age, and that's why I didn't make the same mistakes that they did, because I got to see that through them. And so, like, I've been just struggling to keep up with my brothers, and so now I just have Ramona's child V3,
Right.
and it's the best
Okay.
example of the three.
That sounds very nice. I was going to say, like, I envy you, but, like, I really don't, because I am just, like, happy that happened for you. My sister and I are the exact same age.
Yeah.
We're both adopted, but we are so close that we just call each other twin because we are. We have always been in the same classes.
Mm-hmm.
We have always been together. And so growing up very much alongside her gave me a very good understanding of, like, how girls grow up. Because it wasn't like, my older sister's going through things and I don't understand it because I'm 8 and she's 14. And, like, we were the same age. And so, you know, when people say, like, girls don't mature faster than guys, I'm going to call bullshit, because they do. I think that guys take longer to mature than women do. But I also think guys continue maturing after most women.
Also, guys are just extremely mature in general.
Well, they can be. I mean, I think it really runs a gamut. I don't think that we're being really lighthearted, but I don't think we're being immature right now.
No, I know, but we also
there's always that. There's always that
minute
yeah,
talking about
right. You know,
guns
we're only
sex,
about
so.
10 seconds away from a fart joke at any one time. So, like, you're right about that. But yeah, it's, you know, growing up with her, I never had. There were no older or younger siblings.
Yeah,
we were it. I never had that at all. So I don't really know what I'm missing.
Yeah,
that sounds nice. Where it's like, you know, hey, I'm their Goldilocks child. Like, they overparented and they underparented, and then there's me, and I was just like, okay.
I've actually had an experience most people won't have in being the
foster care.
Well, I was the firstborn of my biological parents.
Yeah.
So I'm the oldest of my blood siblings. But then, like, in the different homes I've been in, I've been anywhere from youngest to middle child to oldest.
Yeah.
I've experienced each of the different.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. So like,
you should write an ebook or something about being
being any of them.
being the Switch child.
You know how we're millennials? You just said ebook. You should write an ebook about it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Self-publish that shit.
But
see what you say. See what you do. Getting into podcasts has done to me.
Another thing, though, like some of the things you're talking about, like the structures that you had implemented on before I was in foster care, like some of my experiences during the low points in my parents' time with me. Like there was actually a point that was coming up very, very soon, right before I left. My dad was like, "When you turn 13, I'm going to pay a hooker for you."
Wow.
Yeah. And I left the September before my 13th birthday.
Now, were you angry at the time?
No.
Were you like, you could have just waited. Foster care.
I saw the women that were around that area. And I knew the pool that he was selecting from, and I was like,
well, that and the fact that like I'm going to commit a crime so that she can commit a crime
more than one crime. Yeah. Like no, there was all sorts of bad. And honestly, during that point, my dad was like particularly deep in addiction. Like he was not anywhere near normal kind of operating capacity for a human being, right? So, I mean, if I were to mention this to my dad, I don't know that he would even remember it, honestly. But yeah, so like some of the you guys are talking about, like I had these rules on me, and I'm just like,
my dad almost got me a hooker. Like that's.
But I mean, but that's why I think we all kind of represent different parts of that wave that I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm very much of the if somebody
you're at the bottom of the wave, and now you're coming back up.
I'm borderline heartless on a lot of issues.
And so because for you just got like no rules, and you just got to rebel early. So now you're coming up from that wave, and you're like, "All right, I need to structure in my life."
It is telling that he's the first one out of all three of us to get married and to be
the most adult,
to be the most established adult. I don't think that's an accident. I think that's you know.
And then for you to have been like at the top of the wave and just been
I'm not like I don't think that I'm going to get to where most people are at 20 or 21 until I'm like 25 or 26. I mean, I'm kind of cool with that. I used not to be like I used to like really fret that I was like being left behind because people were on to like hey, they've got their party people, and I'm like, I'm gonna go watch the Matrix movies for the first time now. Like my baseline for like rebelling started so low that most people just don't consider. But I remember I
watched the Matrix movies when they came out.
Right, and it's like when I was in middle school and high school, people would say like, "Oh, she's such a slut," and I was like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah,
like just the level of cloistered is very difficult, even for me now, to like explain because I'm not that anymore. But like to reach back and be like, "All right, so this is all the parts of me that I can't take back in time because this came from after that," and just it just. I'm still catching up to like just big gaps that most people just take for granted, and I don't like I'm not like tense about that anymore.
Yeah,
I suppose it's just something that I do, and that's why instead of like just wanting to go to raves all the time, I want to sit in a living room and just finish out my list of stuff, and then and I might find that I don't really like them. That it was just the fact that they are attainable now was really all I wanted.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember seeing the Jimmy Neutron movie, but like whenever their parents disappeared, the first thing that everyone did was like did all the stupid
things that
rules.
they said.
It's like I'm leaving the fridge open and letting the cold out. Oh no! Like just the stupid little things. But I think for me, I'm riding like the middle of the wave and just kind of bouncing.
I think there is something to be said for moderation there, and really, what I want to get to is that sense of moderation of like being able to choose moderation now instead of just being content with it because
Yeah.
So, but I mean that's pretty much. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
All right. I think I'm good here since this is technically like yours and my thing. Let me just get I'm Santiago Ramones. SantiagoRamones.com. That's all my things. I make music and I have this podcast.
I'm Cory Hall. I need a catchphrase. Santiago's got his all figured out, and I like it. I blog about foreign wars and shit in my free time. And
What's the name of that blog?
Oryx blog.
Google that stuff.
Yeah, it's we do good work, and just put my life back together at this point in time. So, anyways,
You're on it.
yeah.
Terry, what do you got?
Don't know the name of my stuff yet because I'm still battling on how trolly I want the name to be.
All of it. All troll.
See, I'm thinking about making it a play off of the Doge meme.
110%
She
troll.
just leave.
Yeah.
Anyway,
She was like, they're podcasting? I'm going to come back later.
that very well could have been the train of thought that went through her head. I'm not going to lie. Anyway, I guess the closest thing to a catchphrase that I've got right now is if you're offended, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of baseline there. You have every right to be offended, and I have every right to not give any amount of a crap. So, yeah.
All right.
You and I need to do a troll
Yeah.
podcast.
This is Bit Depth and whatever the hell Terry's going to call it. You could even call it whatever the hell Terry's going to call it. That might be fun.
Hey, that's possible.
Yeah, okay. And 3 things. Love never fails. It's going to be okay. I might be wrong. Thanks for